Breaking down cultural barriers and stereotypes, especially in our schools, leads to better education and better opportunities for all Americans. You will love hearing how Dr. Rashad Anderson and his teacher training program, Call Me Mister, are having this impact, teacher by teacher, classroom by classroom, and school by school, on this episode of Making Our World Better.
Welcome to the Making Our World Better podcast, where you will find motivation and encouragement through lively conversations with inspirational people who every day are making our world a better place. Now, here's your host, Jay Clark.
Welcome to the podcast. I am Jay Clark, and I'm honored to have a conversation with Dr. Rashad Anderson, who serves in dual roles as both a director and associate professor in the esteemed School of Education at Metropolitan State University of Denver, and as the National Expansion Coordinator for the highly acclaimed Call Me Mister program, which focuses on recruiting, training, and placing African-American male educators. Dr. Anderson's academic journey began with a BS in music education from South Carolina State University, followed by a master's in education, then a PhD in educational foundations and inquiry at the University of South Carolina. A celebrated author, sought-after speaker, and consultant, Dr. Anderson has shared his expertise at more than 80 state, national, and international education conferences and was a keynote speaker for the United States Department of Education in 2019 in Washington, D.C. Dr. Anderson has received numerous accolades, including the prestigious Call Me Mr. Trailblazer Award, the SC Black Male Achievement Man of the Year Award, and being recognized as a 3-time Professor of the Year at South Carolina State University. His commitment to education, equity, and nurturing the next generation of leaders is making our world better. I can't wait to get into all of it. Dr. Anderson, welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
So we'll start off simple. Why don't you just introduce us to the Call Me Mister program and your mission?
Absolutely. Call Me Mister is a 23-year-old program started in South Carolina. And we got our start by a professor at Clemson University by the name of Tom Parks. And the story goes, he was riding in the car one day, and on the radio, there was this ad, and the ad came out and it said that there are actually more Black men in prisons than in college. And that really disturbed him. And he said, well, what can I use my platform and power in order to change this trajectory? And Tom Parks was a white male. He was a professor, and he wanted to see what he can do. And so he got with one of the famous football players of Clemson, Jeff Davis, and they came with a program called Call Me Mister. Call Me Mister. Mister stands for Mentors Instructing Students Towards Effective Role Models. We kind of got our start with the help of Oprah Winfrey, actually. 23 years ago, she invited the first group of misters on her show in Chicago, and she made the first huge financial contribution to make sure Mister would be successful. And we had our first group of misters go out into the classroom in 2004. And fast forward 23 years later, we are in 12 other states now, a national program, the foremost leading program in this country for producing Black male teachers. Nearly 700 fully certified teachers placed in the classroom since 2004. So I'm a product of the Call Me Mister program via South Carolina State University. Now I'm in Colorado, MSU Denver, and we are working to create a huge impact here in Colorado.
You know, I'm guessing for the potential for students to thrive and prosper, it just skyrockets when they can have a teacher who comes from a similar background as they do, which is what your program produces, correct?
Yeah. And the research definitely reiterates that there was a study by Johns Hopkins University in 2015, and the name of the study was Black Teachers Make a Difference. And it basically, they studied over 100,000 students of North Carolina between 2001 and 2005, and they found that elementary age students that had at least one Black teacher in third through fifth grade. It almost doubled the
Ah,
likelihood that they would attend college, that they
doubled.
would, yeah,
Wow.
academics skyrocketed, discipline infractions were significantly reduced. And so this idea, I don't ever believe that you have to be a Black teacher to be an effective teacher to Black students. But I do believe that it is some magical effect that happens when you are in a traditional profession that is 80% white female and you go into school your entire trajectory, K through 12, and you have teachers that don't look like you. And then you have that 1 year where you have this teacher and this teacher looks like you. They understand the music you come from, that you like. They know the TV shows and cultural references and kids, students look at that teacher and say, hey, he looks just like me. And if he can do it, I can do it as well. I think that that's really different. I can remember being in school and just being in classes and just feeling like I don't belong. Like I just remember I come from a predominantly white high school, and I remember being in class and just I could not understand just the small talk that would happen in class. I didn't
Mhm.
watch the same TV shows. It wasn't the same music. Didn't go to the same churches. Didn't understand,
Uh,
cultural background. I think that we don't understand the significance of culture. And culture is bigger than just race. I mean, if you take a
yeah.
Southerner versus a Northerner, I mean,
Yeah.
two different cultures.
Hmm.
Even if you look at someone from New York, the culture is different from someone from the Bronx that stay in Brooklyn. And
Right.
so culture is, culture is something that has tremendous impact that I don't think that we give enough credence to. And so a buzzword that you hear in education often is culturally relevant pedagogy. And I believe that that's what happens when you bring in a teacher that shares that similar culture like you. It is just like a spark that happens.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that our profession is greater when we are diverse. Our society is better
No
when we're
question.
diverse. Diversity is a strength. It's not a weakness. And uh, I think that it just makes all schools better when our school system reflect the actual society that we live
Yeah.
in. And our society is one of all ethnicities, backgrounds, and creeds.
Well, I love one of my favorite lines I heard recently. I think it was Ed Milet who said, "Diversity is what really leads to richness," and I completely agree. But as a father of
Absolutely.
an educator, I know how hard that job is and how underappreciated the job of being a teacher is. I also know how important it is, and foundation of our country. But at the same time, you know all this better than I do. So, how hard is it for you to recruit young men to be in your program?
When I was in South Carolina, it wasn't that hard. Call Me Mister again is a South Carolina based program. And so,
Mhm.
if anything, I had more issues with getting the funding to accept, as many as I
Well, that's
could. I had more
a good
applicants than I
problem.
had funding for. In
Good problem.
Colorado's a little different.
Right.
I've only been here 6 months, and it's been a bit of a challenge in just establishing the program, getting our
Right.
name out there. We're small in numbers now. I think slowly but surely, we're starting to get the name of Call Me Mister out there, and it's starting to gain some traction. So it's definitely not as easy as it was in South Carolina, but I'm faithful. I believe that that old saying that they build it, they will come.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that that's what's going to happen here.
So tell me, what are some of the factors that really makes the Call Me Mr. program a little different than just a regular education program that somebody would go through?
Term called Mr. Magic. Our misters are super teachers
I love
in a
it.
sense. From the time that they enter the program as freshmen, from the time that they leave as seniors, I have them into schools their very first week,
Oh,
every
wow.
single week. And they're even working in schools for the summer internship during the summer. I have this saying, teaching is a muscle. The more you do it, the better that you become at it.
That is the
And
truth.
by the time our guys go to their senior year and they do the internship with student teaching, I often hear your misters are seem like they have been in the classroom for years. They just know their way around. They have good classroom management. And my response to that is all the same. They have been. They've
Yeah,
been in
they
the
have been.
classroom for so
Right.
many years.
Love that.
And there's a challenge that I provide the misters is to be the solution. We call them revolutionary educators. One mister is so powerful that one mister can change the entire culture of a classroom, a school building, and a community. And I think that is kind of what sets us apart. About half of all Mr. graduates have been named Teacher of the Year.
Wow.
Under my tenure, I have 17 Teachers of the Years. And so I think
Oh,
that
dude,
goes
that is
to
awesome.
uh, the success and the work that we've been doing. We're not just putting, teachers in the classroom. We're really putting revolutionary educators out there.
That is awesome. So tell me, how have you seen things, shift as far as, the young men you're working with and the environments you're sending them into since you've been involved with the program? Has it changed much over the years or?
Education has changed
Yeah,
dramatically. I mean, if you look in the news, you probably see things about book bans. That wasn't a thing when I was
I
teacher.
mean,
There was no such thing as
crazy.
banning books, and some of the books that are being banned now were staples of
Right.
typical English literature class. Um, there are cultural wars that are happening now that makes it really difficult to be a teacher. I can only imagine what a teacher of color would go through in states like Florida. Oh my goodness. We are looking at some of the most draconian laws and policies happening in public education now. So that's a lot different
Yeah.
than even when I was teaching elementary school. For a teacher to go out there is challenging. And I think that that's kind of the mission of Mister is to not prepare Misters for an ideal, perfect
Right.
situation. We have to prepare them for the reality. Teaching is tough, schools is tough, and you got to be tougher.
Yeah.
And that's always kind of my mentality. We have to be solution makers whenever we go into a building. So yeah, that's kind of our approach, and that's kind of how I see things have changed so far.
Really, when things are changing like this, you're on top of it and you're helping your guys be ready for all that.
Yeah, have to, and a lot of that comes with being in the schools a lot. I think as a professor, you can kind of get really um, kind of meshed into your day to day at the university and kind of become kind of disjointed from what's actually the day to day
Yeah,
reality of what
disconnected from
public
it.
schools
Sure.
is. And so, a big job of mine is just spend time in the schools and do a lot of volunteering there so that I can see kind of what the current climate is so that I can best prepare them for when they have their own classroom.
Yeah. Well, can you think back to when maybe it was when you first got involved with the program, or maybe it was even before that, but when was it for you that you felt the call? And I truly believe most teachers feel called to this profession.
Yeah, I do agree. And I tell folks all the time, teaching is a powerful spiritual calling. It's akin to that of a preacher to a pulpit. It is a
Agreed.
spiritual calling. Everyone can't do it. Teaching is like trying to hold 50 corks underwater at the same time.
That's a good one. I've not heard that one before. I'm stealing that line.
Yeah. So for me, I think when I was in high school, I saw this movie called Drumline, and I wanted to be a music teacher so bad. And I was involved in this program in South Carolina called Teacher Cadet, which is almost like a pre-teaching exploration program for high school seniors. And I was paired with this new graduate of a program called Call Me Mister. He was the first graduate, and he was working
Oh,
at a
wow.
local middle school. And I remember going to his classroom, and as I'm walking up, I hear this hip hop instrumental, and his kids are, he created this rap song for multiplication table. And I was like blown away because, again, the mesh of academics,
I
but culture.
culture.
And
Yep.
his class was just so fun and so engaging. It was different than, my math experience. When I was in math class, you just pretty much came in, you took out your book, and just looked
Right.
at the board and had your calculator. But his class, I mean, the kids were actually rapping about multiplication. How fun is that?
No kidding.
I was like, that was the very first time that I saw myself in the profession, that I saw that I could bring my own energy, that I did not. I think you often see teaching as one way, and I think for a lot of kids say, well, I can't be that, because you pretty much have to be like Mr. Rogers. But then when you see a teacher and they set the example to say, well, you can bring your own spin to it, that for me kind of sealed the deal. And I knew I wanted to be a teacher ever since then.
And is that part of the Call Me Mr. program, is to really lead your guys to, be yourself and bring some of yourself into your profession?
Oh, absolutely. We have a saying, call me Mister. It's not a cookie cutter program. There's no one way to be a Mister. You bring your gifts, your talents, and your interests into the classroom. Only thing that we require is that you do it to the best of your ability and that you think outside the box, what we call Mr. Magic. Um, One of the things
I
I
love
love
that, Mr.
doing,
Magic. I love that.
yeah, Mr. Magic, immersive learning. So, like, if you're learning about one of my guys, when he graduated, he did a lesson on astronomy. And when he walked into the class, the lesson that day, he was like the Men in Black. He was dressed up in his all black uniform. I mean, the whole classroom had transformed. It was like they were on the moon. Um, it was incredible. It was absolutely fascinating. Then when he does stuff on like biology and science, and he'll take you to a safari, and you walk in, the whole entire classroom looks like it's an African
Gosh.
safari, and it's pretty cool. But that's kind of that Mr. Magic.
Speaking of that, this program has enjoyed some great successes that you've touched on. And this is probably not a fair question, but I'll ask anyways. Do you have a personal kind of favorite success story from your time?
I think that the best misters are often ones that I meet that come from high school and don't have good GPAs. We're not in 1,000 extracurricular activities, and the prototypical, what you would think a typical candidate of a pre-service teacher would look like. And one particular mister, when I met him, I mean, he had got in trouble. He was involved in a gang, had gotten into some criminal charges with a legal firearm. I mean, just was on a bad route. And folks just told me I was crazy for putting him in a Call Me Mister program. I mean, he had a bad track record. Well, fast forward, and he now is an amazing teacher. Was a candidate, for Teacher of the Year. And he is able to reach the toughest kids in the school building that no one else.
Seriously.
Like, how in the world? Like, people say, how in the world do you reach this kid? Like, he talks to no one, and I think it's because,
He was that kid.
he was that kid, and it's a really powerful thing to see him now. He's really effective in helping kids turn away from gang life because he was involved in it.
Right.
And I think that's probably one of my biggest success stories is just kind of seeing how he transformed his life. So definitely.
Well, and that has to be super gratifying too, knowing that you changed his life and he's changing others. So it's one of those things that's rippling across different generations, which is awesome. But it's got to be things like that that keep you energized. What gives you hope for the future of Call Me Mister?
Every time that I have a Mr. graduate and I'm able to kind of see them blossom from that same shy freshman that I got until now, uh, sometimes getting teacher of the year. And even if they don't get the award, we have a saying, we're going to be teacher of the year every year, whether we get the award or not. I think that kind of keeps me going by seeing the impact when I visit their classrooms or I see them on Instagram and I kind of see that they have their own families. Like I can see the difference that I'm making. And I'm 35 years old. I got my doctorate degree when I was 26. And I've been in higher ed now for most of my adult life. And I mean, I get out of bed and as soon as my feet hit the floor, I'm excited. I'm happy about what I'm doing. I feel like I'm walking and living in my purpose. And so um, that keeps me going every day. Are there challenges? Absolutely. Do I have failures? Oh, absolutely. Are there guys that start the program and sometimes don't make it? Yeah. Um, I don't believe that there's no perfect program because there's no
Right.
perfect human.
Correct. Correct.
And I can't say that, I've never experienced failure. I never can tell you that all of my misters that started and finished the program. But what I can tell you is that we made a difference. Even if for the ones that don't finish, we made an indelible difference in their life. And that's what keeps me going. I'm content. I don't really want I can't even see myself really doing anything else. I love what I do.
That's awesome. What would you say is a big, audacious goal you have for the Call Me Mister program?
Coming to Colorado.
Yeah.
That is. I mean, look at the scope of Colorado. Colorado has over 170 school districts, and 160 of the 170 have no Black teachers at all.
Whoa.
Um,
I'd not heard that one before. Wow.
oh yeah, we can look at
You got some work to do.
you know, yeah, it is. It's a challenge, and I think African Americans is represents like 4% of the population, but almost all school districts in this state have Black students, and so the challenge is to a big audacious goal is to go into places kind of like Colorado and to completely diversify the classroom. And it's hard because uh, sometimes you're going into situations where um, they're not always racially friendly. And sometimes you're going into situations where is you have to find the students to recruit.
Yeah.
Um, a beautiful thing about when we encounter even racialized events is that racism is a learned behavior, and just like you learn it, you can unlearn it. And one of the best ways to uh, teach our children and colleagues about race and to show that we really are human. That is the connected human experience. Is oftentimes we get messages about the other from the news or the media or
Right.
stereotypes or things from society. But what happens when you have this Black male go into a school building? He's the very first one. He's the only one in that school building. And you may have those in the building that may have preconceptions of what a Black man is. And then that mister comes and completely shatters that stereotype. And you have folks begin to think now, maybe what I thought about the other is incorrect. And because I see this person, I see him as human, I see the goodness that he brings. And for me, that does more in bringing us together as society than anything else. And so
Agreed.
it's challenging. It's a big, audacious goal to be in Colorado,
Yeah.
but I am confident in the work that we are able to do.
Try to respect your time here as we wind down. I always like to wrap these up with kind of the same 4 questions. I call them the Fab Four. First one is, what's something you will read, listen to, or watch today?
I am big on audible books, and I listen to Stephen King religiously.
Nice.
Yeah, so it is probably definitely going to be when I go to the gym, a Stephen King audible book. Absolutely.
Who would you say has been a role model for you in your work that in making the world better?
Because I believe like I take bits and pieces from so many people, and so it's so hard to kind of narrow that down. I probably would say this is a little maybe a different answer. Like I am so inspired by the missions that I work with. Like I feed off them. Uh and they kind of make me want to be the best version of myself. But if I had to pick a person that I really look at their life and look at what they've been through and all they achieved, definitely President Barack Obama. I'd study him meticulously, and geez, what an inspirational figure. I mean, I followed him ever since I was in college, and I remember even when he was in the Senate, and just a huge fan. And so, I met him, shook his hand, but never had like a extended conversation. He's the president after all, but definitely somebody that I think is a role model for sure.
So other than Call Me Mister, is there organizations out there that you admire or want to give a shout out to the work that they're doing?
Definitely here in Colorado Men of Color Collaborative. They are really providing community and space for Black men. It can be very lonely in Colorado. And I think that they are really kind of standing in the gap here and making things happen. The Brothers Keeper Foundation, the mentoring program that the Obama Foundation founded, who are doing amazing things in terms of mentoring in here. And I'm a part of a fraternity, Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. Do a lot of work in the community. Dr. Martin Luther King, he was a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, Thurgood
Nice.
Marshall. And so, I mean, I come from, a lineage of fellow Alpha men that are out there and have done tremendous work, not just for African Americans, but uniting our country. And so definitely those organizations for sure.
Awesome. Last one, if anybody listening wants to learn more about Call Me Mister, if there's a way they can support you guys and what you're doing, what's the best way they can find you?
Oh, absolutely. You can find me on Instagram or Twitter at Jazz Anderson 174, LinkedIn, Rashad Anderson, PhD, and you can contact me at raanderson@msudenver.edu.
Awesome. We'll put all that in the show notes. Dr. Anderson, thanks for being such an inspiring guest. Wish you the best in all your work. Thanks again.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here, and you have a wonderful day.
Thanks for listening, and thanks to Dr. Anderson for answering his calling to change the world through education. This podcast has been brought to you by JC Charity Services. Running a nonprofit is hard, and I'd love to help you thrive. You can find me at makingourworldbetter.com. To follow Dr. Anderson, search Rashad Anderson, PhD on LinkedIn and check the show notes for more links. If you enjoyed this podcast, we'd be grateful if you'd share it with a friend. Until next time, I hope you're inspired to find a way to make our world better.